What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. And the New York Rangers are in a little bit of a slump, guys. We have to have a conversation about it because they are not playing good hockey lately. I mean, what a start to this season. It was so exciting. We were really feeling the Stanley Cup contention, but over the past few weeks, it hasn't felt that way. It's been pretty disappointing. There's a lot of problems surrounding the New York Rangers right now. And so we're going to go ahead and dive into that in today's episode, discuss some of their big problems and the ways that they can fix them. Because if they don't fix them anytime soon, our Stanley Cup aspirations are going to be going down the toilet. So we're going to go ahead and dive into that in today's episode. Before we do so, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Rangers. Without further ado, Eric, let's kick this off. Let's talk about the Rangers' problems. How are you doing today, my friend? And how are you feeling about the way that the Rangers have played in recent weeks?
Today it's a decent day. It's never a good day following a New York Rangers loss. And speaking of New York Rangers losses, they've been quite frequent. The Rangers have lost 3 games straight for the first time this season. It's really frustrating, especially to teams like the St. Louis Blues, not in a playoff spot, barely have a winning record, and all of a sudden they're just coming out and just dominating the Rangers. It's a little frustrating right now. And I know we're only about halfway through the season, just short of halfway through. So there's a lot of time the Rangers can fix these problems. So I don't want to overreact too much, but if something doesn't change and we don't get back on track, the Rangers are quickly going to fall out of a playoff spot. Maybe not a playoff spot, but just look at the lead that they had on that Metropolitan Division. It was close to a 10-point lead. Now it's only 3. They're only 3 points ahead of the Carolina Hurricanes. So that little safety net that we had after such a dominating start, it is gone. If these problems continue, things are going to take a bad turn really, really fast. And, it was announced today, Peter Laviolette is going to be coaching the Metropolitan Division for the All-Star game. Mind-boggling decision right there, as if Laviolette doesn't have a million things on his to-do list to fix this Rangers team. I guess he's got to go coach the All-Star game there. Really happy to see his priorities in the right place there. But I don't know. Hopefully the Rangers will watch this video, listen to our advice because we're experts on the situation, and we can just get right on into it.
All right, I think you're being a little overly critical of Peter Laviolette. I'm not going to rip into him for coaching the All-Star game. Listen, he's enjoying, despite the struggles lately, he is enjoying a great season. He's getting a lot of credit. He's getting a lot of recognition, and he deserves it. So let him live in it for a second. He's an older coach. You don't know how many other times throughout the rest of his career he's going to get this level of praise and this level of accolades. So I'm okay with him coaching the All-Star game. I see where you're coming from. I get why you're frustrated. But personally, I'm not. I think it's just whatever. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those problems, though, because you said a million problems are facing the New York Rangers. He's got a long to-do list, Peter Laviolette does, of things that he needs to fix. So what are some of those big problems in your mind, Eric? I mean, of course, we're going to dive into how to fix them, but first we got to identify them and discuss what are the big problems facing the New York Rangers.
I think the first big one, the major one that's been here all season, is just the amount of injuries that have been going on, and it's not something that the Rangers could control. If a player gets hurt, you got to let him sit out so he can recover and heal. But it's just the level of injuries that have come in. They've played 40 games. How many of them has the team been at full health? 5, maybe, at the beginning of the season. It started with a lingering injury, then Igor, then Quick, then Fox, then Hedel, then Kako, then I think Trouba missed some time, maybe. I don't even, Mika Zibanejad missed last night. It just keeps going and going and going. Now, as for a way to fix it, there's only really one thing, and it's kind of wait for them to get healthy. Kaapo Kakko's day-to-day now. He's traveling with the team. So hopefully we'll see him play tomorrow against Washington. That would be a very nice sight to see right there. But the big thing here is that when these players come back from injury, they get back into the lineup and begin to make an immediate impact. Because this recent stretch of hockey that I've watched, I've only seen 3 good offensive players on the team. Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, and Alexi Lafreniere. Kreider and Zibanejad have been good every few games or so, but they go on these cold stretches. And then you have the players that are just really terrible, really bringing the team down. Blake Wheeler, Nick Bonino, Barclay Goodrow, basically that entire bottom 6, besides Will Cooley, has not been producing any sort of offense. And it's becoming a major problem when that second line doesn't score. Like we shouldn't have to have them score every single game. When they don't score, we lose. And it's a little frustrating. So Capo Caco, Filipino, anyone, Mika Zibanejad, who missed last game with the flu, I believe it was. Hopefully he's back tomorrow. They need to make an immediate impact because this offensive core that we have right now, it's just not getting the job done at this point. And I think Kako especially, he's going to be a big name player when he gets back. Had a little bit of time up there on the first line, didn't play that well. A little time on the third line, didn't play that well. But now he's coming back fully healthy with Kreider and Zibanejad playing, even though I just criticized them for their play, they're still doing a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. So hopefully if Kako gets a little shot up there on the first line again, the three of them can get something going. If not, Kako acts as more of a defensive piece on the third line. That still, too, would be a great addition to the team. And I think it's just really important that everyone gets back onto the ice and starts to perform well.
Yeah, I think I'm in complete agreement with you. The number one problem facing the Rangers is health. None of the players have been staying healthy. A lot of them have been freak accidents and freak injuries and really unavoidable situations like the Capocaco injury. There's really nothing he can do about that. Even Filipino, I mean, I hope Filipino comes back soon, man. His absence has really been felt by the Rangers, I feel like. I mean, listen, even if we've been kind of critical about Filipino in the past, said that he's underwhelmed and hasn't had the breakout that we all wanted him to, I think that we've seen from his absence over these past couple of months, I think it is now at this point, that he's a lot more
November
valuable
2nd.
to this team. Yeah, he's a lot more valuable to this team than I think a lot of fans realize. I think his absence has really been felt. Obviously, last night, Mika Zibanejad was feeling fine in the morning, caught the flu in the afternoon, couldn't play in the game at night. You can't really prepare for something like that. That sucks. Hopefully, he feels better in a couple of days and is back on the ice. But honestly, that probably killed the Rangers right there. I don't think that they could win that game without Filipino. I know they were down a forward. Will Cooley was supposed to move up into the first line. I don't think he did, right? I think he didn't move up onto the first line. They had plans for him too, and he didn't play up there because they didn't want to get him up there without Zibanejad up there, which makes sense. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that, though? Like the idea of bringing Will Cooley up. I know they wanted to wait until Zibanejad's back, so they'll do that. You think that that could be an option to fix one of those other problems that we're going to dive into, which is, of course, fixing the first line, fixing the right wing spot. Like there's a few problems here on this Rangers team, but how are you feeling about Will Cooley being brought up into the top six?
I mean, I think it's a good idea by Laviolette, but at this point, we're kind of just throwing darts right now where that right wing has become the biggest problem in the offensive core. They tried with Kako, didn't work. They tried with Brodzinski, didn't work. They tried with Wheeler, which is the most recent experiment, and that one was horrible because Blake Wheeler has basically just slowed that first line down by like a million miles per hour. And, you got to keep trying until you find something to work. I know later on we're going to discuss the potential trade stuff. But when it comes to who's on the roster, look, they even tried Brennan Othman. It was only for a few shifts, but they still put him up there. So I guess Will Cooley, you're next in line. And if Philip Hedl were healthy, I'm sure he would get a shot up there too, which, Philip Hedl, I bashed him a lot last episode, but as much as I did, I love him. And he is, like you said, he's a very important piece of this team. Just him not being there and then Nick Bonino sliding up into that third line center role, that alone has completely ruined any sort of offensive potential from the bottom six. So the Rangers do need to figure something out with their offense, whether it be coming back healthy, finding someone to elevate up into that first line role. Something's got to change there.
Something's got to change. And I mean, I'm just looking at the lines right now. It's unrecognizable when you compare it to like the first lines of the season. It really is just not even similar. Like the first line on Daily Faceoff, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. Then you got VC, Goudreau, Wheeler. Then you have Kreider, Brodzinski, Cooley, Bonino, Leschyshyn, and Zach Jones. Like this is crazy how different this looks from. Like it puts it into perspective when you really look at it, how much different this is from the first couple weeks of the season where the Rangers got off to a red hot start and looks like those contenders. I don't know. It's just not sustainable when you're changing your lines this often. And it's not even like the Rangers are changing their lines to a fault of their own. Like when Gerard Gallant was changing the lines too often, we were critical of him for that. That's not the case here. Peter Laviolette doesn't have a choice. There's just so many injuries. Everybody's getting hurt. So I don't know what the Rangers need to do to fix this. I know that we talked about injuries being a problem for this team in the offseason, Eric, and obviously the Rangers made a change to their athletic training staff because they didn't like the way that certain injuries were handled last season. They might have made a mistake there. I don't know because the injuries are even worse this year. Everybody's getting hurt left and right. It's only a matter of time before there's no more players to put out there on the ice for the Rangers. So, yeah, I mean, it just puts it into perspective when you look at the lines like that, Eric. It's pretty bad shape that this Rangers team is in right now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I knew the lines from last night's game were really messed up because they were doing 11 forwards and 7 defensemen rather than having all 12 forwards. But yeah, when you actually read it out loud, it's like, like that's bad. That's really, really bad. But I don't know. The offense, that's something that will fix itself with time as the players get healthy. Something that won't fix itself with time, though, just on its own, is the Rangers defense, which is the second thing that I want to transition into here because the Rangers are so inconsistent on their defense. It's amazing to watch. Some games they go out there, especially at the beginning of the season, and they were amazing. The Rangers for a long time at the beginning of the year, they were the number one team in the NHL for goals against. Igor was playing amazing. Just Quick was playing amazing, and the defense in front of them were playing amazing. And then all of a sudden, it just all fell apart. And Laviolette, he constructed this perfect defensive system that was all very defensively minded. First you play defense, then you score the goals. And it kind of seems like that entire plan that he set up that was working just completely unraveled. And the defense is playing horribly. Because of that, Shesterkin and Quick, both of them, are letting in more goals than usual, and fans are so quick to throw hate at Shesterkin, at Quick. But you can't blame them. Sure, there have been a few goals that Shesterkin and Quick would have liked back. That's going to happen every once in a while. But Shesterkin carried the Rangers on his back for the last 3 seasons, and the defense in front of him and the offense, there's no way that those two cores should have made it as deep into the playoffs as they did 2 years ago. But Shesterkin carried them. And we're kind of seeing at this point what this team looks like if Shesterkin isn't like Jesus on ice skates. He's a human. He's playing amazing, but he's not God. And it's showing because the defense is terrible. Just to call out a few players right here, Keandre Miller, the most inconsistent of the bunch. Some games, best defenseman in the NHL. Other games, worst defenseman in the NHL. Braden Schneider, he's just been mid the entire season. He hasn't done anything horrible, but he hasn't really done anything good either. I think Eric Gustafsson had a great hot start to the season. When was the last time you heard his name in any of the highlights? He's just kind of slowed down completely. Fox, he got injured early on in the season, and since he's come back, he's been average. He's still the best defenseman on the team, but he's not Adam Fox level as he usually is. The list goes on and on. I kind of just seems like the defensive core as a whole has just fallen apart. They're making sloppy plays. They look like they have no idea what they're doing. Teams are skating right around them. Players are getting walked. And it's just creating a really hard time for our goaltenders. And sure, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere, they can score as many goals as they want, but it's never going to outnumber the amount of goals that the defense is letting through. So to me, that's not a problem that's just going to fix itself on its own. This is going to take a lot of hard work in practice by Laviolette, which is why I'm a little annoyed that he's not going to take the All-Star break to fix his team. And he's just going to go have fun with Shesterkin in Toronto. But they got to work on these problems. And the worst part is they know about it. I feel like after every single game, Jacob Trouba has some sort of quote where he's like, yeah, I know this wasn't our prettiest game. We did this, this, and this wrong, but we're going to work on it. Well, Trouba, when? You're on a 3-game losing streak and you keep saying you're going to work on it, but clearly you're not because you keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And we're at the point where I don't know if they're actually going to fix it because they say they're trying, but nothing's showing. So I don't know. The defense needs to get things figured out right away.
Yeah, it might be time for another Trouba helmet throw, I think. And I got to bring this up because you just mentioned post-game quotes. I looked up Braden Schneider on X, and here's his quote after their loss.
I know exactly what quote you're about to read.
We made some big ouchies, and they cost us.
Steve,
wow.
If I saw that quote the other day, and I kind of thought it was a fever dream. To me, if I'm Chris Drury, if I'm Peter Laviolette, you say those words after a loss, you're immediately pack your bags. You're going to Hartford, and that's it. Like that's ridiculous. That
That's
like
so funny. That's like
you're on a
clown show
team that's
level.
supposed to be one of the best Stanley Cup contenders in the NHL, and you get embarrassed by a mid team, and all you have to say is we made some ouchies.
No, that's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie.
That's really that's
That's
really
real
bad.
silly goose behavior for Braden Schneider. I'm not thrilled about that quote. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I think that Schneider's been okay. I know you said that he's been mid. I think he's been better than mid. I think Schneider's been fine. One thing that I will say, and this again ties into this injury discussion, Adam Fox hasn't been the same since he's come back from that injury, and I'm not sure what you think the solution to that is. Like Adam Fox, obviously, he's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. We all know that. But recently, he's been struggling. He has not looked like Adam Fox. Do you think that's more so just because he's still knocking rust off from that injury that he was out for so long from? Or do you think maybe it's more so the players around him aren't playing well enough, so it's causing him to fall?
I think it's a combination of the two where, when Fox got back from his injury, no one expected him to immediately just go back to like Norris Trophy level hockey. But you kind of expect him to slowly get back to that level of play. But it's kind of hard to when everyone around you is also dragging you down. So it's like Fox is fighting this uphill battle where he's trying to get back in the form and play amazing defense. But when everyone that's skating around with him is also playing terrible. It's kind of like Shesterkin, where he can't carry the entire team. Adam Fox can't really carry the entire defense that well. So I think it's a combination of the two. I know I did make that comment about Fox. I don't really have anything bad to say about Fox as of right now. I think he's been pretty good, but it's just not enough. I think is the main problem where like he's getting brought down. Like you're only as good as your weakest link is kind of this way that we're at. And as for the Rangers defense, they got a lot of weak links going around right now.
That they definitely do, and they have a lot of changes that they need to make on that defensive end. But let's talk more about that right wing spot because I know that's a discussion that you want to have. I know on the channel we've been kind of discussing a bunch of different ways to fix the Rangers. Trades could be an option. You guys know I would love to see Frank Vitrano back on this team. Love to bring back some more of my favorite Italian hockey players. I would also like to see Vladimir Tarasenko come back. I think that would be interesting. I'm pretty sure the last time we recorded, Eric, you mentioned Patrick Kane, and we both kind of shot that one down and said we wouldn't like to see that. But at this point, I'll try anything. The Rangers got to do something. They got to get some sort of right wing talent in here because between all the injuries and the inconsistency, it's a real problem. So I'd like to see Will Cooley get a try up there and see how he performs. But even then, I mean, you're leaving yourself vulnerable in the bottom six with him in the top six. Like, there's got to be some sort of influx of talent. They need to add somebody, in my opinion. I know that Capo Caco is coming back. That's going to be huge for them. It's definitely an important addition back into the lines. But I still think that they need more, and I think a trade is going to need to be made.
I don't even think it might need to be made. It's going to happen. There's so much like speculation on it and discussion just around social media and news outlets where like everyone knows this is the Rangers' number one problem, and it's going to be the first thing they tackle at the trade deadline. Because like we said earlier, that first line right wing, the Rangers have tried like 4 or 5 different players up there this season, and just none of them have worked. It's very clear that this answer to this is from with outside of the organization. Sure, Capo Caco might get a little bit more playing time up there, and depending on whether or not he succeeds will determine the level of playing time that he gets there. But I still think if you're looking to actually be Stanley Cup contenders, you need like a pretty good like veteran presence there, like a Vetrano, like a Tarasenko, even though I'm against Patrick Kane, someone like him that's won Stanley Cups, that knows what it takes to win in the playoffs. It's like, and that is like a fully established NHL player, not someone like Kako that might break out, might not some old man like Wheeler that can barely make his way back to the bench after a 2-second shift. And as the deadline is getting closer, we're less than 2 months away. I believe it's March 7th or 8th. So less than 2 months. And there are a lot of names out there. Like we said, Tarasenko, Vetrano. I'm shooting Kane down. It's not going to happen, nor do I want it to happen. Yesterday, me and Will did an episode discussing Trevor Zegras, who I know is a natural center, but also plays on the wing. He just got injured as soon as we made that video, out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken ankle. So we'll still be back by the trade deadline, though, but that kind of seems like another risky Patrick Kane move at that point. So I guess one day later, I can say I'm out on the Zegras sweepstakes. But there's a lot of players out there. And as the deadline gets closer, things are going to start to heat up a little bit more players on the trade block, more discussions and rumors, and who knows who the Rangers are going to go out and get. But I think it's safe to say they are going to get someone. It's easily the biggest problem on the lineup, and we have a lot of problems on the lineup. Like with Philip Hedl out, we need a center, but I don't think that's something we might need to immediately go trade for. I complained about Braden Schneider. I'm totally cool, especially after the Ouchie incident, just sending him down to Hartford or ship him off to China or something. I don't care. Just get me a veteran depth defender that knows how to play defense, and then I'll be happy. But overall, the number one problem that just overshadows this entire thing is fixing that first line. Kreider and Zibanejad can only do so much when they have an old man playing next to them. And it's out there. The answer is out there. Drury doesn't have a lot of money to work with, but if he was able to get Tarasenko and Kane and Tyler Mott all at the same deadline last year, I'm sure he can work some magic again and get another right winger. But my faith in this team is extremely high. It will never be at its peak until we find that right wing solution, though.
I agree with you on that. And I do think that Will Cooley could provide a spark up there, once Zibanejad's back from the flu and you've got that group with Kreider, Zibanejad, and then Cooley. I think that could provide a spark. It could get them playing better. But in terms of long-term success and sustainability, they do need to trade for somebody, in my opinion. I don't think that they can get by with what they have. And unfortunately, I think that's strictly just due to injuries because I would have been fine with the way that this team looked and the way that it was playing at the beginning of the year. We knew that right wing could become a problem. And we were like, okay, maybe we'll trade for somebody, but we don't really need to. It's not a pressing need. That's the way I felt. I didn't think that they were going to need to trade for somebody. But after all of these injuries, losing this player, losing that player, now it's a necessity. So they're going to have to do something. And if they don't do something soon, their lead on the Metro is definitely going to fall and slip away from them rather quickly. And I don't really want to see this team have to face or get into the playoffs with a lower seed. I want to see them get in there with the top seed, go in, ready to battle. Last year, it didn't really help us too much when we went in with a lower seed. And then, of course, we know what happened from there. So, I don't know. It's looking scary right now for the Rangers. I will say, though, like you mentioned, you're still confident and you still have faith in this team. So do I. We might have faith for different reasons. I have faith because I still think that there's stars on this team that will carry them far enough, like Igor, like Panarin, Trocheck, Zibanejad, Kreider. Like those guys are going to take this team far. And then I also still have faith in Peter Laviolette. I like the way that he coaches his team. I think that we've seen a ton of improvements from players across the board like Panarin and what he's added defensively this season where he just wasn't able to do those things last year, even with his giveaways. Like really just Panarin all around is thriving under Laviolette. And I think a lot of the players are, but they're being held back by all the inconsistency around them due to injuries. It's really injuries, in my opinion, that are killing this Rangers team. I think that they are still a good team, and I still have faith in them, and I still have faith in Peter Laviolette. So that's kind of my take on the whole overarching how to fix the problems, get healthy, and let Peter Laviolette get back to cooking. So that's how I feel.
I think that is easily the simplest way to put it. The injuries, they've taken a big toll on this team. And like, how you said, when we entered the season, we didn't really think we had that right wing problem because we had Kakko on the first line, Lafreniere on the second. And we were like, oh, finally, a coach who's going to let the kids break out. We were 50% correct because Lafreniere has been absolutely incredible so far this season. I know everyone will still call him a bust, but if you compare Lafreniere to other first-round picks from the 2020 draft class, Lafreniere outperforms. Like he's like first place in a lot of different categories. So say what you want about Lafreniere, but he's definitely the best forward in the 2020 draft class. And I'm happy to finally be able to say that with confidence. As for Kakko, I guess we'll see. We need him to get healthy, which seems like he is. Maybe we'll see him play tomorrow. We might not, but sooner rather than later, we will. And time will tell if Laviolette is able to work his magic and fix the Rangers defense for the second time in the same season. I have faith. Yeah, I'm a little angry with him for going to Toronto. He better be working Shesterkin hard there. Even though it's the All-Star game, every morning, Shesterkin on the ice practicing. That's what I need from Laviolette on this little vacation that he's going on. And lastly, go out, trade for a winger, and then I'll be happy. And then we'll win the Stanley Cup, and that's it. But yeah, that about wraps up my thoughts.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say to touch on the Laviolette thing, I think a break is what these guys need. I think that they need to just sit back, relax, get their minds and bodies right. All this inconsistency, all these injuries, I think that a break is actually beneficial. I think Laviolette going out there, having a little bit of fun with Igor and kind of blowing off some steam at the All-Star game, I'm fine with that. I just think we've got different opinions on it, see it differently, and that's fine. But like all the players taking a break, I think that's really what this team needs, is to take a break and get healthy and then attack the second half of the year.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I will say before you wrap it up is you make a good point there, because remember earlier at the beginning of the season, the Rangers were on like an insane win streak, and then they got to their bye week, and everyone was like, "Oh man, this is like the worst time for us to have a bye week because we're playing so good. We don't want to take all this time off and then come back and lose our momentum. We wish this would have happened if we were playing bad." Well, look, now we're playing bad, and we have a little bit of a break coming up at the end of the month. So maybe you're right. Maybe a few days off to kind of just mentally reset and everything could be beneficial to the Rangers. So you have persuaded me on that one. I see the pros and the cons to it.
You see the vision now. I'm glad that I was able to convince you. Again, I'm a big Laviolette supporter, so I got to get you on my side supporting him. I think that Laviolette, if we trusted him, I think we could trust this process. I think he'll figure it out. But nothing's getting figured out until this team gets healthy. So let's hope and pray that these Rangers players can finally get healthy and then stay healthy for the final stretch of the season.
I got one more thing to say. The fourth way to fix the Rangers' problems: Panarin's about to have a baby at the end of the month. Congrats. Jacob Trouba taking time away from the team to have a baby. Congrats to the Trubas. Congrats to the Panarins, man. I'm happy for you. But stop having babies in the middle of the season, because we need you, and you guys are good. Thank you. That's all.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think you could tell them when and when not to have children. Listen, that is going to be stressful for the Rangers, having to deal with the absence of those two players. But I don't know. I guess you do make a good point, though. Like, it is going to be.
Panarin strategically timed it for the All-Star break. Jacob Trouba.
Yeah, I'm sure he did that on purpose. He specifically chose. He said, "On this day, we will conceive."
Yes, yeah. You just wrap it up.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up. So that pretty much wraps this one up. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Rangers. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And
let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.